Well, we've got a special guest on the phone line. He's not only a professional football player for the Carolina Panthers, but in addition to that, he is a philanthropist and believes in giving back to the community. He grew up in the Delray, Hollywood Beach, Florida area, and he beat the system and made it to the NFL. He's played with some of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the game, including Brett Favre, not only in Green Bay, but also as a member of the New York Jets. And he's seen some guys in college who are pretty good as well. Marcus Vick, to name a few. David Clowney, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today, man?
Man, I'm great, man. I appreciate you having me.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and I appreciate you coming on. I want to talk a lot about the David Clowney Foundation, which is a phenomenal foundation, and what you're doing for underprivileged kids in Florida. But first, I have a couple of questions for you on the NFL draft. The Carolina Panthers take #1 overall Cam Newton. What do you think of that selection, first of all?
Hey, man, I think it's a great choice. I think we did a great thing getting Cam Newton. I'm excited about it. Of course, he's still going to have to go out and show he can play the game, play up to the speed. So hopefully, all this lockout stuff are in, and we can get on the field and start practicing, and these guys can learn the system, and him and Jimmy can get their competition going.
How quickly do you think he can learn the system? You were in New York with a quarterback named Brett Favre, who had very little time to learn the system, and obviously was one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. And then you got a kid named Mark Sanchez, and you and Mark seem to be on the same page, and you hooked up a lot for several passes, several long passes. And he learned the system, and it seemed like he learned it quickly. How easily will this be? How easily will this process be for Cam Newton, and how quickly do you think you'll be catching bombs from this guy?
Well, I hope as soon as possible as far as catching the ball from him. That's all I really want to do is catch footballs on Sunday. As far as him learning the system, that's all going to be up to him. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to him. It's going to be up to how much he studies, how much he sticks his head in the playbook, how much he focuses on, just making sure he knows everything. As quarterback, you have to know every position. You have to know the receiver does, the running back does, the O-line. So these are different things that, he has to really take heed into himself. So I believe he's focused. I believe he's ready. So as long as he, keeps his head in the book, then he'll learn the system pretty fast. And it's a pretty easy system that we have going on with the new offensive coordinator and new coaching staff we have now.
You guys definitely needed a quarterback badly. That was a deficit for you guys. And now you've got somebody who's expected to be amazing. Obviously, he goes #1 in the draft. How exciting is it for you as a wide receiver to get a quarterback who, yes, will have to learn the system, but seems to have all the skills and went #1 in the draft?
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful, man. I mean, like I said, I'm very excited. When you have a quarterback, somebody that can get you the ball, and when plays break down, somebody that can still, keep a play alive. That's one thing about Ben Roethlisberger. If play's not there in those first 3 seconds, he can still scramble and get away and still make plays. Mike Vick, guys like that. I think Cam Newton is one of those guys. He's big, he's strong. He has the power to move, and very shifty when he gets out the pocket. So, like I said, I'm excited about that, man, especially when plays break down for a quarterback to still be looking upfield, running sideways to get the ball to somebody.
Well, it seems very exciting to be a Carolina Panther, especially today, except for the fact that there's no football at the moment. How frustrating is this back and forth, lockout, no lockout, lockout, maybe a lockout, maybe not a lockout, for you and other players?
It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. Just when they lifted the lockout, I flew back to Charlotte. I'm in Charlotte right now, and I flew back to Charlotte to come here and work out at the facility, to work out with my teammates. And the first day I go in the locker room, they basically say the lockout is back on. And that was why I was in the locker room with other players. So, it's frustrating, man, because, we're trying to, we want to work out, we want to work out with our teammates. I want to catch passes from Jimmy, and Cam right now, working on timing, getting those things down to get ready for when the preseason comes around. But those things are, they're very important. And I think it's not only going to hurt the team, but it's going to hurt each and every individual person, on the team. Because I can go out and catch passes, from Jared Brown, quarterback from the Cleveland Browns, or Drew Stanton. Those are some of the guys I've been catching passes with this offseason. I can catch passes with them all day, but they're not my quarterback. So it's really going to affect, the timing and the things that you have to get done, as far as the relationship for a quarterback and a receiver.
Are you still working out every day in preparation for a season that might never happen?
Every day. I've actually been doing two-a-days every day. A couple of my training partners are Jacoby Ford, Pierre Garçon, Mike Moore from Detroit Lions, and Chris Carter has been my receiver coach this entire offseason. So, like I said, I've been working out every day, twice a day, just staying in shape, running routes, catching passes, doing everything as if, I was in a natural training camp, a natural off-season workout program or OTAs.
Chris Carter, how'd you hook up with him?
I've known Chris Carter since Little League. He's a friend of the family. I've worked out with him in Little League. I've worked out with him through high school. So he's basically just helping me, get my technique down. And like I said, this entire offseason, I've been with him. His son has been out there as well. His son is going to be is actually a receiver for Alabama now, University of Alabama. So, just continue to work with these guys, work with these different professional athletes, and just making sure I'm staying on top of my conditioning and catching the ball. That's my only focus, is making sure I'm catching the ball every day and running routes.
How is it working with Chris Carter, and how does he teach you? What's the advice he gives you?
Oh, man, Chris is a character. But, I mean, like, no matter what he says, like, I take in and I soak it in 100%. I mean, there's no way that you cannot listen to him. He's a legend, a Hall of Famer. So, like, working with him, I mean, it's fun. It's great, learning from him. I mean, I've had some great receiver coaches, in the last 3 years, working with Henry Ellis the last 2 years in New York, and him being a legend himself on the field. So, I mean, he helped my game go from just raw talent to being a true receiver just in my route running alone. So, Henry Ellis helped me with that. Now it's just with Chris, everything is so precise when it comes down to technique. And like I said, I can't wait to take it to the field.
How important is it when he is precise? When you said I guess he's detail oriented. When you talk about running the route a little bit differently or doing something just a little bit differently with your hands to catch the ball, how important are these little tiny things that he gives you?
They're very important. Any receiver coach, any true receiver coach will tell you technique wins before speed. So I mean, and especially when you're tired, technique wins. Technique. You need to make sure that you focus on your technique when you're tired. And that 2-minute drill, when you're tired, is all get out. You're slouching. You don't have any energy. You have to focus on your technique. So those are the things that's going to get you open. Those are the things that, when the ball's coming your way, are going to help you make that catch that much easier.
David, you're an excellent wide receiver in the NFL, but what is most amazing about you is that you give back, and you picked a charity, or you created a charity that is closest to your heart. You give back to the underprivileged kids from the community you came out of. You have an entire weekend at this point, starting with a bowling tournament and then a football camp. The idea is with the bowling tournament to raise money for them. The football camp is to teach them lessons not only on the field but off the field as well. You bring in a lot of pro athletes from around the nation to help you and to teach these kids and to tell their stories to show that you can make a difference, you can grow up and do something different. And you grew up in a very, very tough neighborhood. And so you do all this, and then you have a celebrity basketball tournament and barbecue to kind of let everybody relax and enjoy themselves as well. And it's all in an effort to teach these kids that there is a way out. And they don't necessarily even have to be a pro football player, but they can go and be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever they'd like. But you give them the tools not only on the football field but in life. And you talk about being a man and being a good human being and what they need to do. I know that this year's events are coming up in June. Can you talk a little bit about what made you decide to start the foundation and what was your inspiration exactly behind it, and then we'll get into what you do and how you do it?
Well, first off, my inspiration is my little brother. Everybody, of course, I think everybody in the world knows about my little brother. He actually just turned 13 on April 22nd.
Wow, is he really 13? I remember when he was 10.
When's the last time you seen him? Yeah, I probably haven't seen him in a couple of years.
I haven't seen him since he was 10, yeah.
Yeah, so, but no, he's growing, and just having him, I've had friends that have passed, that have died to, gang activity, You know, I have friends that have been shot, you know, because of being in the wrong, you know, because of drugs, you know, because of, you know, being, you know, how we say, being in the streets. You know, personally, I don't want that life for my brother. You know, I grew up in a rough neighborhood to where, you know, I done been out at a party with some friends and somebody come through doing a drive-by. You know, I don't want that life for my brother. And as well as my friends and their siblings, you know, or my kids. So as far as everything, as far as my foundation, you know, it was very important to me to let every kid know, you know, especially in the South Florida area, being where I'm from, that you don't have to sell drugs in order to make money. You know, you don't have to be a part of a gang just to feel safe. You know, and these are the things that I really stress to kids, that education is the key. Education to get you out of your worst environment, like point blank, period. And I'm a firm believer of that. You know, I graduated with my undergrad a semester early, and I actually walked this May 14th with my master's. You know, so, like, I know, like, if football never happens again, I have 2 different degrees that I can fall back on. So I want guys to just go out here and think, okay, it's only one way, you know, to get out of a rough neighborhood. Because it's many ways, you know. And like I say, education is the key. And those are some of the things that I try to just make sure that I stress to these kids, you know, show them that, you know, if I can get out, if a lot of these other guys can get out, then, you know, you can too. It's possible for anybody.
Well, congratulations on graduating with your master's degree, and I think what you're doing is great. You've painted a wonderful picture of how your neighborhood that you grew up in is really, really difficult. How important is it that you tell these kids not only that there's a different way, but that you reinforce it and you come back every year and continue to reinforce it and then participate in the community, and that you haven't left the community, you still live there?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I still live there. And I think that's the important thing, not so much living there, but coming back every year. There's some people that they'll do a camp, you know, and then that'll be the only camp. You know, they won't do another one, or they'll do one big event, and then that's it. To me personally, I feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out, because if you really mean what you say, then you'll stay consistent with it. You know, like this is like for the last 3 years, you know, I did my little weekend, you know, my youth football camp, the bowling events that I've been doing in New York and Florida, you know, and the celebrity basketball game, bringing all these different celebrities out, you know, NFL players, NBA players, musical artists, comedians, you know, to come out and feed these kids, you know, to inspire them. And I'm going to continue to do it. And they see that I'm doing it every year. They see that I continue to keep coming back, you know, to let them, okay, he's not playing, like, he's serious about helping us. And I just want every kid to see that, you know, regardless if I'm helping one kid, or regardless if I'm helping 1,000 kids. As long as I get my message to somebody, I feel like I did my part.
How did you decide that you didn't want to just have a football camp, and even the football camp portion wasn't only going to be about football, it was going to be about life? How did you decide that it was going to be all these different things, and you were really going to emphasize and keep reinforcing with the kids what they needed to do?
Well, my thing, I'm very family oriented. Like, I love, like, having my family around. You know, just my son, my fiance, my mom, my brothers. You know, I love having my family around. You know, I love having company over to the house. So when it comes, like, when I have the mindset of that, I thought of the idea to just, instead of doing a camp, to do a whole weekend. This way, to bring the entire community together. You know, not just kids coming to a football camp to learn, you know, do drills by NFL players, but to actually bring the community together by having a celebrity basketball game every year at my old high school. That brings the community out. You know, we're all in one building together. They're having a good time watching guys that know how to play basketball and some guys that can't play a lick of basketball. You know, just enjoying and laughing and having a good time. The bowling event, you know, that's another idea. You know, to bring everybody together, to bring the community together. You know, this way everybody is together. You know, saying that, okay, we can do this together. Like, because just like any artist or anybody, your favorite music, your favorite rapper, your favorite singer, you know, they can't get famous unless you go out and buy their album, and they'll tell you, I'm nothing without you. I'm nothing without the community. If the community, you know, doesn't come out and support me, then I can't. You know, it's hard for me to do my part. So it's one big circle, you know, just helping each other. So while I'm out there, you know, spending the money to get all this stuff together, but they're coming in bringing their kids, letting these kids see that, okay, it's possible to do this. You know, you could be doing the same thing when you get older, if not better.
It's so true. I think so many athletes don't realize so many times that it's the fans. If the fans don't fill the seats, if the fans don't come to the games, if the fans don't root for you, then there's no money to be made in pro sports because there's nobody to pay the venue costs, there's nobody to pay the TV rights because nobody's watching. And so it's so important to give back to the fans, and I really admire what you're doing. Now, a couple of years ago, I was down in Opelika, Florida, a very close neighborhood, similar neighborhood, and it's also very dangerous. And I learned something there that I hadn't understood before, and I want you to talk about if it's similar and explain just how hard it is. And that is that, you know, I just thought, hey, you grow up in that neighborhood, you make the choice either to sell drugs or join a gang or not. And it's just that simple. You can decide to do the right thing or not do the right thing. But it's not that simple. That's what I learned.
No,
and I think so many people have that misconception. And can you talk about how hard it is for these kids to decide not to join a gang and how much more difficult it is on their lives?
I mean, just being young, you know, like I said, a lot of people just, you know, think it's easy, but it's not at all. You know, it's not at all. You know, you get peer pressure. I think peer pressure is one of the worst things in the world. I swear to God, I really mean that. I feel like peer pressure is the worst thing in the world, because when you have one person that doesn't have any friends, or, you know, or has a group of friends and those guys, you know, all the guys he hangs out with, their moms don't care how late they stay out. You know, their moms don't care, you know, where they go. You know, they don't have a curfew. You know, and this one guy does. In order to hang around all his friends that he hangs with on a regular basis, he has to do the things that they do. You know, or he's not going to have any friends. You know, and at a young age, you know, and I'm speaking, you know, more so under high school. At a young age, your whole mindset is, I want to hang out with my friends. I want to be with my friends. You know, so they follow their friends. You know, so it's like birds of a feather flock together. You know, you're going to end up doing what other people do when you're at a young age. You know, when you're around nothing but drugs all your life, and you see guys riding in nice cars, you see guys, you know, got like jewelry. They hear all this music. You know, because music is a big influence on a lot of our kids' lives as well. You know, when they see those things, they were like, oh, those are nice. You know, he's doing this in order to drive a Benz. He's doing this in order to drive a BMW. You know, these are the things that they want to do. You know, these are the things that they want. So they try to figure out, okay, how did he get it? When they find out, then they feel like that's the way to get it, instead of just following through with their education. And then, you know, you got some guys that are older, too, that persuade these kids to go out and do drugs, which I hope every last one of these, we can get all these guys off the streets as well. You know, because I think it's a shame that you have adults, you know, 21 to 30 to 40 years old, you know, influence kids and telling them, you know, if you want this, go out and sell this for me. You know, I think that's pathetic, you know, and I think it's wrong. And I really hope, you know, it'll come a time to where, you know, that won't be the case. You know, because I would hate for somebody to walk up to my son, to walk up to my little brother, you know, and try to persuade them to do this. And they think it's okay.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Is it ever more than just peer pressure? Is it ever threatened with violence, that if they don't do this, then they will be killed or hurt, or their families will be hurt? And then also, once they do it once, is there a way to get out?
Yeah, it's just like any gang. Once you join the gang, man, you're pretty much tied in. You know, you're pretty much tied in. And violence is like Palm Beach County. We actually have the #1 murder rate in the state of Florida, Palm Beach County. At one point, and Dade and Duval is like 3 times bigger than Palm Beach County. Miami-Dade, Florida is like 3 or 4 times bigger than Palm Beach County. We have the #1 murder rate in the state of Florida.
Now,
as well as 100 gangs, 100 active gangs. You know, and it's certain things, like I said, just when it comes down to violence, they'll tell you, like, okay, you either be with us or with nobody at all. And nobody at all doesn't mean, okay, we're going to leave you alone. You're going to be with us.
Right.
You know, so some guys have been put in that situation, you know, and like I said, these are some of the things that I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to slow down as far as trying to help in the community and help kids understand that you have a choice. I know it's hard, but, you know, it's different ways to get out of different situations. And I just ask that, you know, our parents, you know, or the police department, whatever it is, you know, to make sure that we're out here backing these kids up, helping them stay out of trouble, you know, not putting them in situations to be caught in that bind.
How were you able to stay out of trouble when you were coming up through the area and as a kid?
Honestly, I was one of the lucky ones. I feel like, because I really didn't stay out of trouble when I was a kid. You know, when I was 12 years old, I got sent. My mom sent me to a military boot camp.
Wow.
You know, and you had to be 13 to get in. I had just turned 12, and they still let me in. So, you know, and it actually changed my life. You know, it actually changed my life. You know, it helped me out with a lot of things that I need to get myself together with. But at the same time, I had family members. I had like, you know, well, not friends, but people that I called my friends that weren't up to any good. They helped me. You know, they basically let me know, like, okay, we don't want you around this. You know, I'm a heck of an athlete. You know, so like I said, I've had times where I know certain people, so where they did the wrong things, but they told me, okay, listen, I want you to stay away from this. So like I said, I wasn't pressured as much as a lot of other guys were to do, you know, to go out and sell drugs, to do this and do that. So I feel very blessed that I wasn't. So, like I said, but everybody's not as lucky as me. Everybody's not as that doesn't have an opportunity like that, or doesn't have a friend to tell them, regardless if they're doing good or bad, to tell them, no, you're a good athlete. You know, you're smart. You know, stay in school, focus on football.
DavidClowney87.com is the website. How do people get involved and help the charity? Now, I know that you need volunteers, you need donations, you need all sorts of products and services, and anything can help. So if you don't have money, if you can't donate money, you can always donate time. You can always get involved. There's always some way you can help. How do people get involved?
Well, I actually just started. It's just up and running right now. The DavidClowneyFoundation.com. It's up and running. Like I said, if you like you just stated, I mean, anything helps. Water, food, donations. You know, these are all the things that help. You know, my weekend go good. If you can come out, you know, even if you want to be a volunteer, you can go to my website and email me personally, DavidClowney87.com, and if there's a tab that says Ask David or Speak with David, and it'll come straight to my email, and I'll be able to reply to each and every person personally from my email with whatever you can help me with. Like I said, I take anything I can get to help these kids. This whole weekend is based on giving 2 to 3 scholarships to 2 high schools to help them with their college tuition and their books for somebody for a kid that can't. You know, we're gonna have a certain requirement listing, but it's based on their grades, attendance, stuff like that. But it's gonna be for a kid that can't afford to go to school.
Well, that's...
You know, for kids that can't afford to go to school, we're gonna have 2 to 3 scholarships, depending on how much money we raise for my charity weekend coming up in June. We're going to give out as many scholarships as possible to the kids to help them with their tuition and their school books for college.
That's wonderful. And I think what people don't even realize, though, is you can give out, I mean, just donating T-shirts that you can print with the foundation logo on them, or, you know, giving out sneakers that you can give out to the kids goes a long way. So it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can be, you know, a few $1,000s always is great to help give out scholarships. And I think the greatest part, David, and most people don't know this about you, is that everything that's done with your foundation, all the events, you set up yourself. I've never seen a guy hustle like this. You take care of everything, and you get great corporate sponsors to participate, great sponsors from the community, but it takes more than that, and people need to help out any way they can. Volunteer, give something small, just get involved somehow, give something big, and put one of these kids through school. And even donate books, from college books, donate an iPad so a kid can, who maybe can't afford books can buy books cheaper. I mean, that's, to me, like one of the greatest things you could give one of these kids today is like an iPad or a Kindle or one of these tablets, because they can download the school books at a fraction of the cost of the books would cost them, so they'll have access to all the books. Plus, there's so much more learning and research that they can do on the device as well. So, I mean, any of these things, anything at all, DavidClowneyFoundation.com, and in addition to that, it's DavidClowney87.com. And David, you do a phenomenal job. I got to tip my hat to you, and I really appreciate and am inspired by what you do. You really do a great job, man.
I really appreciate it.
How's the new addition to the family doing?
Oh man, he's awesome, man. He's awesome. So I got the entire family. Well, my fiance, her entire family is a little upset because he looks like he's basically my twin. I should have spit him out myself.
And you cut
I
the
should have spit him
hair.
out myself.
You cut the hair. What did you lose a bet? You had these awesome dreads that
No,
came through your helmet.
you know what, man? Yeah, I did cut the dreads. I thought I felt like my dreads was like Samson, man. My power was in my head. But you know, then leaving the Jets, after I was released and then claimed by the Panthers, you know, I just had being in Carolina, I felt like okay, it was right around New Year's, right before the last game of the season when I cut it. We played the Atlanta Falcons, and I felt like going into the year, I wanted to change. I wanted to change, you know, with not just the hair, but I felt like being on a new team, you know, I got tendered, which I'm blessed about that. Well, before the lockout, I got tendered before the lockout. So I got tendered before the lockout. I got a new team, new look, you know, just new life. You know, with my son being here now, so it was just new everything. So you know, and then plus, you know, I feel like 2011 is going to be an incredible year for me. I really believe that God has blessed me in so many ways up to this point right now, and I have not even began to reach my full potential in the NFL. I truly see that. And when I cut my hair, I ended up, you know, having 2 catches for like 56 yards in a couple, probably about 3 or 4 big key blocks to spring the running backs open. So I had a heck of a game. It was January 2nd, our last game of the season. So everything was going on in 2011. So I just felt like everything was a change. You know, when I cut my hair, you know, being on a new team, you know, starting the first, it was the last game of the season, but it was the first game of 2011. You know, having, you know, an incredible game all the way around, special teams, offensively, catching the ball in the running game. So I just really feel like, you know, 2011 was a big change for me, and that's why I cut my hair off. And I feel like there's going to be a lot more going on from here.
Well, sounds good, and it definitely looks good. I know that we don't have a picture of it here yet, and you're joining us via the phone, but I've seen a picture via your Twitter account, and it certainly looks good. Dave, I do want to ask you one thing before we get into it. I have a couple other things I want to get to, but as far as, I don't know if you saw Outside the Lines last night, this goes back a little bit to your charity, the David Clowney Foundation, and what's going on in Florida. I don't know if you saw Outside the Lines or the piece that SportsCenter put on from Outside the Lines, but apparently there's a lot of gambling going on like Little League football games, on Pop Warner games out in Florida. There are 30,000 kids playing in the Fort Lauderdale area in the league, and they've caught on videotape gambling outwardly gambling, and points where kids are being offered money from the gamblers and the bookies to do well, maybe even to throw games, but as far as we know, only to do well and rewarded. And many times the players don't even know what the money is for, allegedly. What are your feelings about this, and what can be done to clean it up?
I'm not exactly sure what can be done to clean it up. I think, you know, I think it's terrible, the fact that, you know, there's people that can sit there and gamble on TV football. You know, you're gambling on 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. You know, like I think it's retarded. I'm not exactly sure what we can do to stop that, because that can be just an inside thing. You know, like me and you could be sitting at a game and just, okay, I bet you $100 they score. You know, so there's no way to really like catch that. You know, there's no way to really, you know, just lock down on that. You know, so I think it's pathetic, and I hope some people, you know, even the adults, I hope they grow up and that's something they just have to grow out of. You just have to grow up in. I think that's pathetic, man.
It certainly is, and I think your answer is very realistic. There's not much in my mind, and I know a lot of law enforcement officials through my years of reporting, there's not much in my mind that can be done about this. It's very hard to catch and very hard to prove. Even if I give you $100 in the stands, I could say that was for a turtleneck you bought me last week, or I could say that was for a soda, you know, you're about to go get me from the concession stand, or that's for the tires you're going to put on my car next week. So I think it's a very hard thing to catch and prove without having a sting or some other kind of operation.
Some kind of log or some kind of, you know, some kind of proof. You know, there's no way you're going to be able to prove
and
that.
Obviously there's
paper.
And obviously there's a lot of other stuff going on that might take priority in that area. but it is very shameful. It is disgusting, and I do think it's been going on for a long time, but I do think these adults certainly need to grow up, and there are plenty of things to bet on in life. You don't need to exploit children, and that's really what it is, and it's sad, and it takes away the purity of the game when you're a kid, and it really does damage, I think, to these kids. So I think it would be...
It will, especially if they're getting money from it, especially at a young age.
Was this,
to
your knowledge?
Taking the fun out of it. At that age, it's supposed to be nothing but fun. I mean, it's supposed to be fun, period. Football is still fun for me right now. All this lockout stuff is driving me bananas. Like, I swear to God, it's driving me up the wall. Because all my life, all I wanted to do is play football. All my life, all I ever want to do is play receiver. Looking up to Jerry Rice and Chris Carter. All my life. So, like, it should be fun for these kids. They should not be out here, worried about, at 10 years old, my brother should not be worried about him being in the 7th grade, worried about, okay, if I drop this ball, I'm not going to get this $20 that this guy just promised me.
Yeah. And you're 100% right.
About that.
You're 100% right. And it's funny because there was a kid wearing number 10 in the video last night, and I immediately thought of Jordan because the last time I saw him play, he was wearing number 10. And so that, obviously it wasn't Jordan, but it's what I immediately thought of, and my heart just sank, and I was I thought this is horrible, and hopefully there's something they can do about it. Now, when you were a kid growing up, was this going? I know it's been going on for a long time. To your knowledge, was this going on?
No, not when I was in playing Little League. No, nobody's ever come to me, with any kind of money or any kind of letting me know, okay, if you do good, you're going to get this, or, don't do good and I give this. Nobody ever came to me about anything like that, not once.
Well, I'm sure you would have done the right thing and ignored the person or told them to go away, but I'm glad that it didn't happen to you, and hopefully they get it cleaned up. It's really a very shameful situation. Dave, I hope that you get back on the football field soon. I hope all you guys get back on the football field soon. I know it's, as you said a moment ago, it's got to be so frustrating for you guys that you want to get back to work and you're not able to. And unfortunately, I think this is going to go on for a little while, but hopefully it gets resolved sooner rather than later, because I know the players want to get back on the field and the fans certainly would love to see football. It's the time of year where right after the draft you start itching. You want the mini camps. You want to hear about what's going on with OTAs. You want to see how players are starting to shake out. You want to hear that they're working hard, which I know that you and several other players are still working hard. So that's good. Dave, I want to thank you so much for coming on and giving us so much of your time. Again, the David Clowney Foundation, davidclowneyfoundation.com, and also davidclowney87.com. You got to check it out. The events are in June. What's the exact weekend, Dave?
June 3rd through the 5th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
June 3rd through the 5th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got to get out there. You got to volunteer. You got to help out. Scholarships to the kids. And anything else that can be done for these kids. They'll learn a lot of life lessons, and they'll learn some football as well. Dave, you're so outspoken about this stuff. Do you ever worry when you're back in the community and you live there, but do you ever worry for your safety that somebody is not going to like what you're saying or what you're teaching these kids or what you're trying to accomplish?
Nope, I'm not worried about it at all. If they don't like it, I hope they say something to me. I hope they say something to me.
All right.
We can handle that. We can handle that like adults, and we can talk about it, and I can explain to them how I really feel, and they can tell me how they really feel. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna play it like this lockout. I'm not gonna budge. My mission, my slogan, my logo, and my slogan is a better world for our youth. I believe the youth are our future. Without the youth, we are nothing.
Well, you are 100% correct.
They're what's gonna make our world better. Point blank, period.
You're 100% correct, and you're spoken like the true gentleman that you are. I really appreciate your time here on Sports Daily, sports.com, and ustream.tv. I'm going to do my best to get out to your event in June 3rd through the 5th. You got to help them out. You got to do anything you can. If you don't have money to donate or you don't have resources to donate your time. And you can also donate, property to use if you have a restaurant or something. There's all sorts of things you can donate. But get involved, davidclowneyfoundation.com and davidclowney87.com. Dave, we miss you in New York, man. Hopefully you come visit soon.
Hey, I actually will be for my graduation.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing you, and we'll talk to you soon. Keep in touch, buddy.
All right, no problem, man. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.